What up, my friend? Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Patrick DeBello podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. I am your host, Patrick DeBello. I am a regular dude who shares practical, no BS fitness and nutrition information. I help people from all over the world, all ages, shapes, sizes, interests, get healthy, be strong, be fit, and dig into their athletic capabilities. So I am glad to have you. Today, the main topic is fat loss. The past couple of episodes, I've been doing S tier rankings. So today I'm going to do that for fat loss. But first, I'll give you just a quick update on my training. It is Friday, February 20th. So that means I have finished another week of training, lifting heavy, getting some solid runs in. Last weekend, I took my own advice from a couple podcasts ago, and I had fun with my training. So last Saturday, usually a rest day for me, I used that opportunity to take my dog out into the woods and play and run, and call that an active rest day. Used it as a way to get my steps in, enjoy some time outside, get into nature, enjoy some peace and quiet, and also just admire my dog's innocence and love for just running around and playing in the snow. Had a really good time. It's just incredible to watch this dude act like the snow was put on earth for him. Super fun. So that was Saturday. Sunday, my good friend and I went snowshoeing in the mountains of upstate New York and had a great experience. I am going to post a couple pictures here on the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, check out these photos. We actually went to a location where you can walk behind a waterfall. And during the spring, summer, and fall, obviously the waterfall is flowing, but in the winter it is frozen. So we trekked up and went behind the frozen waterfall, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. While we were going around the waterfall, there were people ice climbing on the waterfall, which I've never seen before. And I've been going to this place for years, but I've never seen people ice climbing the waterfall. They were absolute maniacs, and it was super cool to see. There was a large group of them. They had ropes anchored at the top of the waterfall. They had a bunch of people kind of spotting and talking through what was going on the ice and down below. So it was really spectacular to see just a different breed of people who are out there in nature climbing a frozen waterfall. Super cool. My friend and I went into this trail that I usually run weekly in the spring, summer, and fall. And it was just such a different experience being completely covered in snow. Knee-deep snow with our snowshoes. Obviously, we were able to walk in said knee-deep snow, but it was still pretty challenging. And we got to a point where obviously people turned around and walked back, because at first the trail was kind of stomped down. And then we got to a point where it was no longer a trail that anybody was on in the recent past. So we had to forge our own path, which made things even more difficult. And then, since my friend is just as adventurous as I am, we ended up kind of going off the trail and scooting down to a different trail in a way that we normally wouldn't go. And that's when we came across the waterfall, which I knew where we were going. It just wasn't an actual trail that we followed, so it was super cool. Saw a lot of deer bed. Trucked through knee-high snow in the peace and quiet, just shooting the shit with my good friend. Had a really great time. So that was Saturday and Sunday. Monday is my upper body day. Had a really good workout. And then Tuesday, I did something that got me out of my comfort zone quite a bit. So normally on Tuesday, I do an interval run on my own. But this past Tuesday, I decided to join a run club. So I got together with a group of people who meet in downtown Syracuse at 6:15 in the morning, and then they run 6.2 miles together as a group, and then they go out to a bagel shop and have bagels together. So it's actually called Bagel Tuesday. Conveniently, it's my favorite bagel in New York. So I got to do something that I love, run, and eat my favorite bagel in the same like hour and a half time period. But it was getting me out of my comfort zone because usually I train alone. I definitely run alone the vast majority of the time. And it was early in the morning. I am a night owl. Usually I am up late until about midnight or 1 a.m. working on client programs, creating content, writing blogs, things like that. So it's kind of difficult for me to wake up in the morning, especially training as hard as I do. I like to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep to support all of my training. So if I go to bed at 2 in the morning, I'm going to wake up at around 9 in the morning. But I had to force myself to go to sleep early so I could wake up at 5 and go and join this run club. And it was super cool. Everybody there knew each other. I was the only person who was a first timer, but they were super welcoming. We all took off at the same time, and it was just something about being with a group of people who just start to run together. If you've done a race of any kind, you know the feeling that I'm talking about. It is a little bit different energy when you're starting like a 5K or even like a Spartan race or a half marathon when everybody's at the start line like hyped, and then you start running. A little bit different, but nonetheless, it was super fun that we're all like, all right, ready to go. Everybody starts their watch. You just hear beep, 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 and then we take off down the street. It was really cool. Pitch black, so out of the 15 people, I would say 7 people had lighted vests. So they were scattered throughout the group, so we were very visible. Obviously, we were like on our toes, making sure that we were avoiding traffic as much as possible. But we ran through downtown Syracuse. Then we went up to Syracuse University campus. And to get there, it was a couple of nice hills that we had to run up. Super cool to run through the campus. Ended up going back into downtown and finished, like I said, about 6.2 miles with about an 8.5 minute pace. The cool thing was there was people of all ages in this group. And to their credit, all of these people were basically talking the entire time. As soon as we started out at like a 7:30 or a 7:40 pace, which was very surprising to me. So I was like, is this what I just got myself into? I had no clue I was going to be running at that clip. Meanwhile, people next to me and in front of me are just chatting away, no big deal, having conversations, and I'm starting to like already breathe heavily because I'm not used to running at that pace, especially on a trail, right? I trail run, it's a much slower pace than on a flat road. But there was a guy that was late 50s, maybe early 60s, and he was a phenomenal runner. He was ahead of me the majority of the time, and not that it's a competition, but just kind of pointing out and admiring that age isn't a death sentence, and just because you're in your 50s or 60s doesn't mean that you can't run, or you shouldn't run, or you can't be athletic, or you can't train. I was just admiring this guy that was in his 60s and holding a conversation while chugging up hills with a group of people that are half his age. I'm 40, and I was talking to people in the group that are 25, so they're 15 years younger than me, and they're much younger than him, but he was keeping up. He was hanging, if not setting the tone. So super cool to be with that group. I'm definitely going to join again. I won't be able to join for the next 2 weeks because I have some other things going on, but I'm going to commit to waking up early and joining that group for the next few months. I think it's going to be a good way to just be a part of a community, get out of my comfort zone, and run with a little bit of a different strategy. You know, there's still benefits to me doing runs like that with like unpredictable inclines and, you know, random paces and things like that. So normally my very structured runs are consistent. I do them all the time. There's benefits to that, but there's also benefits to switching it up a little bit and doing some runs that you aren't necessarily prepared for, and varying paces, varying inclines. So I'm definitely going to do that again. And then here we are, Friday. Completed my week of workouts, completed all of my daily steps, feeling very good. Gonna enjoy my rest day tomorrow, probably get a few things done around the house, and then I'm going to be doing some traveling next week. That's going to include some warm weather, lots of sunshine, and lots of trail runs and hikes. So if you don't follow me on social media, Instagram at Patrick DeBello Fitness or Facebook Patrick DeBello, I suggest you do so because obviously I post my experiences and I think I'm going to hit up some pretty cool trails. And if you appreciate the outdoors, I think you'll appreciate the content that I'm going to be posting. I did get a new GoPro recently, the new Hero 13, and it's pretty damn sweet. So I have a couple of different harnesses, and I'm going to be using that quite a bit to create content and get some better content of me like running the trails and the terrain that I'm doing. I'm also going to go horseback riding, and I'm going to wear it when I go horseback riding, so it's going to be really cool. I'm going to get some cool videos, cool pictures. And candidly, like I said, it's Friday. Last night I recorded this podcast and it was about 40 minutes long, and then when I finished I realized that my microphone was on mute. So now I'm paranoid and I keep looking down at my microphone to make sure it's not on mute, because I talked for 40 minutes straight, recorded the entire episode, and then when I was on my platform to post it, no sound was coming out. So that was a bummer. And I did it at like 10:30 at night, so I was up until, well, I was recording a podcast until 11, and I realized that I basically just wasted my time. Anyways, here we go. Today's main topic: S-tier list or S-tier ranking for fat loss. As you know, these are my opinions based off of my experiences with myself and my clients. I will argue, though, that this first one is not an opinion. This is a straight up fact. This is science. This is a true, tried, and proven concept. When it comes to fat loss, the only thing that matters is calories. That is why calories is in the S tier alone. There is no other topic in the S tier. Nutrition is the driver of fat loss. If your calories are in check, if you are eating in a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat. If you eat in a calorie surplus, you will gain body fat. If you eat at calorie maintenance, you will maintain your body weight. So calories in, calories out is all that matters for fat loss. If you are in a deficit, you will lose body fat. How do you find your calorie deficit? Relatively easy. First of all, we all have our own individual metabolism. That is referred to as your base metabolic rate. When it comes to how many calories you burn every day, it is your base metabolic rate, and that is representing how many calories your body burns at rest every single day. So if you were to lie in bed all day, how many calories would your body need to function? You take that number, let's say that it is 1,600. This is just a random number. I'm using simple, even numbers for math. You take 1,600 and then you estimate how many calories you burn with your daily activity, because obviously none of us just lay in bed every day. So your daily activity is your exercise, what you do for a living, and how active you are. So if you are a desk worker or a truck driver, your activity level is pretty low. If you are a contractor or a nurse, your activity level is pretty high. So let's just say you are somebody who burns 400 calories a day through exercise and whatever else that you're doing. Whether it's dishes or mowing the lawn working out, all of that counts. 1,600 calories is your base metabolic rate. 400 is your activity level. That comes to 2,000. If you eat 2,000 calories a day, you will maintain your weight. If you eat 2,500 calories a day, you will gain weight. Not in one day, but consistently over time, you will gain weight. If you eat under 2,000 calories, you will lose weight consistently over time. This is not just a one-time thing. Scientifically, 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of body fat. So if you eat in a calorie deficit of 500 calories per day for 1 week, that will come to a weekly deficit of 3,500 calories, which means you will lose 1 pound of body fat per week. So if your maintenance calories are 2,000 and you eat 1,500 for 4 weeks, technically you will lose 4 pounds in the entire month. There will be some daily fluctuations because weight loss is not linear, but over time, if you are comparing today's weight to your weight 4 weeks from now, in a 500 calorie deficit per week, you will lose 1 pound per week, 4 pounds per month. If you go into a smaller deficit and you eat 50, which is 250 calorie deficit, you'll lose a half a pound per week. Now, with that said, the reason that calories are in the S tier for fat loss is because you can lose weight with nutrition alone. You do not have to exercise. I don't recommend it, but somebody can just get their diet in check and lose body fat. No doubt about it. Again, it's not recommended. You obviously want to strength train, which is now my A tier. Strength training is going to allow you to not only maintain muscle, but most likely build muscle, because when you lose body fat through nutrition, you want to replace that body fat through strength training. Because if you don't, you're going to look what people refer to as skinny fat. Where if you know somebody who just lost a bunch of weight through nutrition alone, or nutrition and cardio, because cardio doesn't build muscle, they look like somebody that you can tell was very heavy at one point, or they look like they just lost look like they just lost a bunch of weight, but they have nothing replacing all of that body fat that they lost. So strength training is my number one and only A tier, because you're going to lose the body fat through nutrition, and then you're going to replace that body fat with strength training. Another reason that I think strength training is super important is because it gives you non-scale victories. There's a couple of different non-scale victories that you could use to keep your motivation high and keep your mentality in check. And while it will be difficult, or it's more difficult to build strength and excel at certain lifts if you're eating in a deficit than it is if you're eating at maintenance or in a surplus, you still can get stronger in a deficit. So if there's times where the scale is fluctuating or staying the same and you're feeling down, like you're not making progress, you can usually reflect on how much stronger you're getting. Like, are you able to dumbbell bench press more? Are you able to squat more? Are you able to deadlift more? Are you able to curl more? Are you doing more on your tricep pushdowns? It really doesn't matter, as long as you have these variables other than the scale that you can compare to know if you're making progress and if you're moving in the right direction. Because as much as fat loss is the main goal, it's not the only goal, and it is slow and it's not linear. So you want to have other data points to compare. So for non-scale victories for my clients, I usually use progress photos, body measurements, how your clothes fit, how you're feeling, how much energy you have. Those are all non-scale victories. And I guess I could actually put those into the B tier because they're also super important. My B tier is pretty full. I got a few things here. So S tier calories, A tier strength training, and then B tier non-scale victories. They don't necessarily aid in fat loss, but they help you keep your motivation, stay disciplined, and give you something to focus on when you feel like you're not making progress. So it's more of the mental side of things, which is super important and just as valuable as those other metrics. So next on the B tier is going to be protein, because protein is going to help you build and repair muscle tissue. If you're strength training and you don't keep your protein up, you're going to have a hard time maintaining and building muscle. So protein's also going to help you feel a little bit more full than foods high in carbohydrates and fats. So a better way to say that is foods higher in protein help you feel more full than foods high in carbohydrates and fats. If we're talking about a cup of non-fat Greek yogurt that's high in protein, it's going to make you feel more full than a sleeve of Oreos or 2 handfuls of Doritos. Those ultra-processed foods are usually high in carbohydrates, fats, salts. They taste very good, the texture is great, but they don't make you feel full, so you can eat a lot of them without being satiated and while taking in a shitload of calories. But if you focus on high volume, high protein foods like chicken breast, non-fat Greek yogurt, shrimp, you can't eat that much of them because they come with so much volume that they're very filling and they're going to make you feel satiated. So protein is B tier because it's going to help you build, maintain, and repair the muscle tissue that you're going to get from strength training. And it's going to help you feel more full, which is beneficial when you're in a calorie deficit, because when you're in a deficit, you are going to be hungry. It might suck because no one really likes to be hungry. The truth is, if you're in a deficit, you have to learn how to sit with that hunger. And on the subject of not enjoying being hungry, that's why I don't put people in extreme deficits. If I'm working with a client in a fat loss phase, we know that if we put them in a 500 calorie deficit per day, they're going to lose a pound per week, but they're also going to be very hungry. So I would rather put them in a smaller deficit so they're not as hungry, and then have them eating a good amount of protein so they feel more full through the foods that they eat. I hope that makes sense. Next, steps. Steps are going to add to your activity level. Bouncing back to the calories and the calorie deficit. When I am coming up with the calories for my client's calorie deficit, like I said, I am taking their metabolism and adding their activity level. So their workouts and how many steps they get like on a regular basis is already accounted for in their daily caloric recommendation. Any steps you can take over that is just going to be extra calories burned. And while I don't recommend people using exercise as a way to burn calories, living an active lifestyle and moving consistently is going to help you burn more calories in a fat loss phase. So if I do somebody's calorie deficit and I'm accounting for the fact that they take 5,000 steps a day and they work out 3 days a week with strength training, and then they do 90 minutes of zone 2 cardio twice a week. Well, in total, once a week they do 35 to 40 minutes of zone 2 cardio. If they're taking 5,000 steps a day, and that's the number that I used, if they can get that step count up to 7,500 steps a day, that's just adding to their NEAT, their non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is any amount of calories that we burn outside of planned exercise, it's just going to increase their deficit. So that doesn't mean that I just want people taking 15,000 steps a day to increase their calorie burn. But that does mean that if somebody is taking 5,000 steps a day, it's probably a good move for them to bump that up to 7,500 or 8,000 steps a day, because that is going to help them burn more calories and widen that deficit. So far, B tier, protein and steps. Next, we're going to talk about sleep, because sleep is going to help regulate hormones. It's going to help you regulate your hunger. And usually when people aren't sleeping well or getting enough sleep, it usually means that they're up late, like me. Now, I have a pretty good hold on things, so if I'm up till midnight or 1 a.m., I'm not usually snacking. But most people who are up late and they're snacking on junk food. I don't know anybody who snacks at 10 o'clock at night and they're grabbing an apple or like a cup of broccoli. They're usually grabbing chips, granola bars, cookies, all that processed shit. Even like a bowl of cereal. People love eating cereal at night. It's never low calorie, nutrient dense foods that are high in fiber and low in calories. So you're better off taking your ass to sleep early and avoiding eating junk food. But more importantly, sleep does help with hunger regulation. It does help with your hormonal environment. It helps you reduce stress. When you are stressed, fat loss is probably going to be more difficult. So sleep is super important. B tier, protein, steps, and sleep. C tier, carbs and fats. Macros do not matter when it comes to fat loss. The only thing that matters for fat loss is calories. Are you in a calorie deficit? If you are, you will lose body fat regardless of your macro count. If you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat regardless of how much protein you eat, how many carbs you eat, and how much fat you eat. Like I said earlier, the reason that we eat protein is because it helps us build and repair muscle tissue. The reason that we eat protein is because it helps you feel more full. When it comes to carbs and fats, you can lose fat on a high carb diet if your calories are in check. You can lose fat on a low carb diet if your calories are in check. So the way I operate for my clients who are in a fat loss phase is I give them a calorie range for their calorie deficit, and I give them a protein target. I do not tell people how much carbs or fat to eat because it comes down to preference. If I give somebody who enjoys fatty foods more than they enjoy high carb foods, a recommendation to eat higher carbs, their compliance is going to be lower. So everybody that I work with, I have them give me a food log. When they send me a food log of the things they've eaten for the past 5 to 7 days, some people have a lot more rice and potatoes and oatmeal and other grains. Other people have more nuts and seeds and oils and avocado. If I have somebody that clearly favors fats, and then I tell them they should be eating more carbs, and they have a hard time finding foods that they enjoy to hit that carb number, it's probably going to limit their compliance. So since carbs and fats don't matter for fat loss, as long as somebody's calories are in check, I don't care how many carbs and fats they eat. You can eat whatever you want as long as you stay within your calorie range for your calorie deficit. F tier, the number one king of the F tier, is going to be supplements. And even though I kind of want to dig into a few supplements, I think there's only one main supplement that people actually market for fat loss, and that's a fat burner. Fat burners are 100% useless when it comes to fat loss. Fat burners are complete scams when it comes to fat loss. You are better off taking the stairs than taking a fat burner. You are better off parking in the back of the parking lot and walking a little bit further to your destination than taking a fat burner. It's all marketing. It's a straight up scam. They're stealing money. Get your steps up instead of taking a fat burner. It's probably going to make you feel like shit. It is going to do something to your body, but it's not going to inherently like burn fat off of your body. The only way you can do that is by eating in a calorie deficit. So supplements are king of the F tier. The other variable that I have in F tier is meal timing. Meal timing is irrelevant when it comes to fat loss. I know some people will say you have to eat 6 meals a day, spread out 2 hours apart if you want to lose body fat. That's bullshit. Other people are going to say you have to skip breakfast and only eat lunch and dinner. That's bullshit. Other people are going to say you can't eat at night because it makes you fat. That is very, very much bullshit. The only thing that matters when it comes to fat loss is calories in versus calories out. If you have an easier time being in a calorie deficit because you skip breakfast and do intermittent fasting, that's great. It's a perfect tool for you. But it's not inherently making you lose body fat. If it's helping you stay in the deficit is why you're losing body fat, not the fact that you skipped breakfast. On the other hand, if you have a busy day and you can only eat X amount of food for breakfast and lunch because you're a nurse or you're a contractor or other professions that make it difficult to get a normal meal in, if you eat at night, you're not going to gain body fat if you're still in a deficit. Now, if the food that you're eating at night is putting you over the top into a surplus, you're going to gain weight, but that's because you're in a surplus, not because you ate at night. Our bodies don't have a clock that you strike a certain time and everything that you eat after that is stored as body fat. The downside of eating at night is if you eat a huge meal right before you go to bed, it could affect your sleep, which, like we said, that could affect your hormones, your appetite in the next day, and things like that. But that's a different story. If you do eat at night because if you have crazy work hours and you can only eat at night, but you go to sleep 2 hours after you eat, that's fine. That's probably not going to affect your sleep so much, and you don't just gain weight because you're eating at night. Our body doesn't have these clocks that as soon as it strikes a certain time, you start to store body fat. It's all about calories in, calories out. So meal timing and supplements are F tier, no doubt about it. Aside from that, outside of the tiers, a couple of things that I already said that I would like to mention again to make fat loss suck less, because food is not only fuel, but it's comfort. And if you're eating in a deficit, you're going to be hungry. And if you enjoy food, that might suck. So a couple of ways to make it suck less is to eat high volume, low calorie foods that are going to make you feel more full than low volume, high calorie foods. So for example, if you eat a cup of Greek yogurt, you are going to feel super full. Now, if you eat 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, it's going to be double the calories and you're not going to feel full at all. So focus on high volume, low calorie foods while you're in a fat loss phase. You can sprinkle in other kinds of foods, right? Like if you enjoy something that is not that healthy, as long as it fits in your calories and the majority of your foods are healthful foods, you're going to be fine. But to make fat loss suck less, focus on those high volume foods: non-fat Greek yogurt, chicken breast, shrimp, watermelon. You can eat an entire watermelon for like 80 calories. And if you can eat an entire watermelon, I would be impressed, because that's a lot of food, but it's very little calories. It's just an example. Also, again, strength training. If you're losing body fat through nutrition, you want to make sure that you are strength training so you at least maintain muscle and build muscle. That's all I got for you for my fat loss S tier. If you have any questions on any of that, as always, do not hesitate to reach out. You can DM me on Instagram at PatrickDevelopFitness. You can also email me, patrick@syracusefitnesscenter.com. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor, leave me a 5-star review. If you listen on Apple, a written review would be extremely helpful. When you listen to an entire episode, it tells these platforms that there's value in the episode and they're going to push it to more people. When you leave a review, it's going to tell the platforms that you enjoyed the episode and they're going to push it to more people. So you are helping me out tremendously by listening to this entire episode. If you made it this far, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you can, just take another couple of minutes to leave me a review. And until next time, have a great week of training. Work hard, work smart, and make sure to have some fun while you're at it.